This is a shamanic drum that I made at a workshop that I was at a couple of weeks ago. I want to talk about some of the people I met at that workshop. I met 3 witches. And I know, I thought the same when they said that too. I thought, pointy hats. But actually, these were women who worshipped, like pagans worshipped many thousands of years ago. In fact, all indigenous people, Native American Indians and Aborigines, always worshipped the stars, the moon, the earth, the very close connection with harmony and healing. And pagan culture is no different than Celtic pagan culture. These women worshipped the feminine, they worshipped Mother Earth, and every month they would do rituals, and they would worship and pray to the moon and to themselves, and so we had an amazing conversation at lunch during that workshop with those 3 ladies, and they started talking about the matriarchy, and I got really interested in their comments about organizational structure, because I'd never thought about this before, but actually the hierarchical structure is a very patriarchal structure. So our world is generally a patriarch-driven world. And if you look at structures, that hierarchical structure that governs the military, education, governments, healthcare, everything, power flows down from the top, responsibility flows down, it's very ego-driven, and lots of silos and structures and layers, and of course, fundamentally not very agile. We find ourselves in the middle of this pandemic in the need, of course, to really have agile pivot businesses, and the structures are just wrong. And I started thinking about this, and they were all about the matriarch and the power of the feminine and the power of the circle. And if you compare the shape of this hierarchy to a flatter, more circular organization, you can very quickly see that they have something in this. So the circular organization usually places the leader at the center. And the leader, a bit like a spider's web, has strands that go out from themselves to the various people around them. And those people are orbiting them at all times. And in fact, the leader can even step out and let someone else take the center of the circle, or even leave the circle empty, and all the other teams pivot and orbit around each other. And so as an organization, it's fundamentally more creative and innovative because the distances between each of the layers isn't there, and people are able to have conversations and co-create around the circle much, much easier. So I started becoming really interested in this idea of using feminine energy inside organizational structures. And I started thinking about what it means for the recovery, because I think at the moment, the pandemic recovery in business, we're all so focused on this straight line. We love a straight line. And again, very male ego thing. We love knowing where we're going. What's the KPI? What's the goal? Let's get there. And the recovery isn't going to be like that. It should be very obvious to everyone now. It's not going to be some V-shaped recovery, not even a slow-shaped recovery. It's actually going to be a bit like a roller coaster. We're going to go backwards sometimes before we go forwards again. And just like riding a roller coaster, when you go upside down, it's okay because you're going to come good again. You don't get stuck upside down, hopefully. And that's where we are in the recovery. This is going to be a roller coaster recovery, and we have to get comfortable with a bit of an ebb and a flow, a bit of a circular recovery. And I think getting into that healing space and learning to lead as a leader, if you're watching this and you lead a team, learning to lead with intuition instead of ego. Instead of having KPIs and success targets and goals, just leading with vulnerability and leading with intuition and leading with healing, and all those things are much, much more healthy. And again, if you're leading a team, think about that hierarchical structure that you maybe have in place. And again, going back to those pagan celebrations, the witches and pagans all stood in a circle. And so that Hollywood image of witches around the cauldron, but they're standing in a circle. And they're co-celebrating the ritual. Nobody's in charge here. They're all celebrating together. And if you compare that to modern religion, whether it's Christianity or Hinduism, or whether it's the priest, the rabbi, the imam, they're all at the top of the altar, and you're the congregation. I have the power, you're the people. And that's the hierarchy again. And that's a problem. So we need to be able to get much more in terms of co-celebrating, so borrow that idea, that circle, into co-creating. Invite our consumers into the circle, invite our other partners and departments into the circle, and maybe even our competitors into the circle. Let's co-create together, and let's have a circular organization where the ideas flow and innovation flows and creativity flows. So I think we could learn a lot from witches this October. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. The full blog is there if you want to really get into it. At the end of the blog, there's that classic Monty Python sketch from the Holy Grail, I think, which is amazing. Burn her. She's a witch. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed. My name is Ken Hughes. See you next time.